Okay, so we're going to be making our basic toe up sock. And this cast on I'm going to show you gives you a nice no seam a nice little no seam, no bumps toe. And you're going to want to practice this cast on so that you get a nice closed join here, because this is one needle and this is your other needle, and you can see that there's no space there. And so it looks something like this. Let me have that too. There we go. Looks something like this when it's on your needles. So we're going to do that real fast, and you'll want to practice this. So this will be kind of a short video so that you can practice. Leave yourself, you're going to make a slip knot. Leave yourself a nice long tail, just in case you decide down the road that you don't like your toe as much as you thought you did. You can always use your tail to kind of, on the inside, go back and forth between your stitches and close them up a little bit. So you're going to put your slip knot on the bottom, and according to our directions, it says cast on a total of 24, 12 stitches on each side. And then you're going to knit one round even, which just means knit in a circle. And then you're going to do knit one, make one, knit to the end of that needle, knit one, make one, and you're going to knit one, and you're going to do that. And then round two is knit one round all the way around, and place a marker on one needle in the center of your 12 stitches, so on your 6th stitch. And I do not have a stitch marker with me, so we will just grab one of these, which probably isn't the best. But so you're going to put, you need at least a 24, if which for learning I don't recommend. I recommend like 32 is best length circular needle. These ones are kind of tiny for most people. I like them because they give you a nice firm, steady, long wearing sock. So these are size 1s, I think. But you can use like a size 3 all the way up when you're practicing, and like for your first couple of sets of socks, I kind of suggest using a size at least 2 or 3, especially if you're not used to using smaller needles. I knit lace, so tiny needles don't bother me. So anyway, you're going to lay them kind of like on top of each other. Your slip knot's on the bottom needle, and you're going to take your yarn, hold on your tail just to keep him out of the way, and you're going to go, so you're going to go between your needles, around the back of the top one, over it, between your needles, around the back of the bottom one, and then back between your needles. You're making a figure 8, and you want them to be fairly close together. So as you practice, that's why I said you probably want to practice, because you don't want much of a gap between these two needles. So between the needles, around the back of the top one, between the needles, around the back of the bottom, between the needles, around the back of the top. And you're going to do this until you have 12 stitches on each needle. You can count. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This will be number 10, 11, 12. Okay. You don't count your slip knot as a stitch. So that way when you end, your 12th stitch will end on your bottom needle with your wrap going behind in between, so that your next move is going to be ready with your yarn behind and in position to pick up this first top stitch. So here comes the little trick part. You want to pull this needle out, your bottom needle out. Don't be worried. And you're going to now knit on your top needle. So you're going to go in, and your first few rows are very, very fiddly, fussy rows. That's why you'll want to practice this a few times before you actually start your sock. So knit your first stitch. You're going to knit your second stitch, third, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Okay. Now, what you want to do is you're going to rotate this. So now you have needle on bottom, cord on top. Pull your needle on bottom out and push your cord on top until you have needle on top. And then you slip your slip knot off and just give it a little pull, and the little slip knot comes out. Okay, so now you're going to pull your bottom needle out, and that was probably a little too much in, but anyway. So pull him out, and you're going to do your other needle round. And if what's going on the back side here is you see there's a separation between these two stitches. So it'll be at the top of your foot and the bottom of your foot. You always need to maintain cord going on back here. So you're going to knit these. Okay. Like I said, your first few rounds are very, very fussy. So practice a few times before you actually start your sock in on purpose or for real or whatever. Come on, get around there. I usually knit left-handed, so my right hand knitting is a little out of practice, but I think most people would knit right-handed. you kind of want to make, after you've practiced, you kind of want to make these stitches as neat and tidy as possible, just because it is the toe of your sock, and who wants their big toes going through. So we've come to the end of our stitches on that needle. So again, you flip your needle upside down. You're going to maintain this business going on back here. So you're going to pull this top one until your needle is in those stitches. Get out of the way. Those go back. And depending on how tight you are, sometimes it takes a little bit to get over the joint of your needles. Just work it a little bit. Pull your bottom one out. Now for row 2, it's or round 1, after you've knit one plain round to get, the first thing started, you're going to knit one, make one. And there's a bunch of different ways to make one. Some will give you eyelets, which don't really recommend for, up in your toes. So I'm going to show you the one that I use. So you're going to knit one, and then you're going to pick up down in here the bar that's in between your stitches. And it's a little fussy, but you're going to put your needle in there, and you're going to knit that like it was a stitch. And then you don't end up with any kind of a hole. So then you knit down to the end. And basically on each needle, you're going to be adding 2 stitches on each end of your sock, because that kind of like starts to increase for your toesies to be in there. So this is the almost last stitch. So you're going to find the stitch down there, you're going to pick it up, and you're going to knit in it. And then you're going to knit your last stitch. Okay. Flip it over, pull this one back, you pull the top one back, and you push the bottom one out. So bottom out, top back. There you go. There we go. Around. Okay. Pick up between the stitches. There we go. Knit to the end. And you can see, it is a little fiddly and fussy, and that's why I would suggest practicing a few times before you start your sock really for reals. So then find the bar in between. So there's your thing. And go in, come on. Go in there. So for your bar, I should say, if you pick it up front to back, And then you go in and knit, you do end up with a hole. So, oops, hang on here, come back. So you want to actually pick it up from back to front. And then that way when you go in to knit, come on. You won't have any hole there. And then around. So you can see how your toe is starting to grow, and there's no like holes if you pick up your bar from the back to the front instead of the front to the back. So then you flip it up, and you're just gonna slide him back, pull that one out, and then this round is just plain old knit, 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 knit. And you want to put a stitch marker on one needle. It actually comes in handy on one side in the middle. So we have 14, so on between 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I had a stitch marker. Well, actually, I don't have a real one, but you can use any old thing. In a pinch, here's one of those little like rubber band thingies. And then you just keep on going. And when you get to where you can put a real stitch marker in, you would just put a real stitch marker. So then you just go around. To the end. Flip it over. And you can see, so this one's going to be one side of your foot, and then that other one is going to be your other side of the foot. But you can see, as you start to grow, your toe, this one I was on really teeny tiny needles, and I changed my needles a little bit, so the toe looks a little goofy, but my husband doesn't care. And it stretches out as you wear it, but it will start by adding 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, it starts to grow your toe. And when you get to, depending on how big you want your toes, he has big feet, so he has 64, 68, I forget. Anyway, I used the 68 anyway. So practice that little bit making your toe, and then the next video I show you will be how to do the gusset and the heel. So